Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminolly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today I'm not going to talk about any of that. Today I'm going to talk about being an introvert. So this video isn't really going to be a bookish video, although it will certainly touch on books, I think, at some points. It was inspired by a video that Sarah at the channel The Bookish Knitter put up in the last couple of days, where she talked about the fact that she's an introvert and the fact that sometimes people are surprised by that because she has a YouTube channel. And Sarah, and if you haven't watched her channel, you should definitely check it out. So she specialises in romance fiction, which is something that I kind of enjoy, so I enjoy romance fiction occasionally, but I certainly wouldn't say I'm like a big fan of it. Certainly nothing like Sarah is. But she's one of those people who talks so entertainingly and engagingly about the books that she likes, that even though they're not necessarily books I would read, hers is a really good channel to watch. Anyway, so Sarah talked about the fact that people are often surprised by the fact that she's an introvert because of the fact she's got a channel. And it hadn't really occurred to me, and I think it's something I'm sure I have mentioned it at some point in past videos, but I am someone who considers myself to be a very strongly introverted person. I really struggle in group situations. I'm terrible at making small talk. I don't like talking on the phone. I would much rather be at home than out at some sort of event. Ironically, I've got an event to go to tomorrow. And whilst I can cope in work situations, I think I normally cope because I know the rules. There's a structure to work conversations and things like that. That means I can overcome my introvertedness because I'm talking about a topic rather than talking about myself or just making small talk with people. But yeah, I am awful at making small talk. If we're ever at a party together and you see me, go and talk to somebody else, because you will have a terrible conversation if you try and talk to me. So yeah, I'm really bad in that sort of situation, and I don't, generally speaking, I don't much like talking. So thinking about it, it does seem strange to me that I've got a channel, and it's not something that I've really thought about before now. But it doesn't really make sense because, as I say, I don't really like talking at all. One of the traits of introverts is that they prefer written communication to spoken communication, and that's definitely true for me. I would much rather email somebody or text them or instant message them or whatever than talk to them on the phone. I find phone conversations particularly painful for some reason, and I don't know if this is because my mum, who is like a massive extrovert, when we were kids, was always on the phone to people. So that was very much a part of my childhood, if you like, was my mum being on the phone. And I don't know if that in some way has made me particularly resistant to phone conversations, but I really struggle with them, to the extent that I remember years ago at work, I used to make a list of things I needed to do at the start of every day, and half of the list would be things I needed to do, tasks I needed to make sure got done or whatever, and the other half would be people I needed to telephone to ask questions of. And that second list was always the one that it took me longer to get through. So I'm someone who has really welcomed the advances in technology over the last few years that have made like typed conversations much more prevalent than they ever were before. So when I was a kid, a typed conversation was a letter. It was, that was it. There was nothing else. So nowadays, where certainly for work, most of my, a great deal of my work life is typed conversations over Microsoft Teams. And whereas in the kind of pre-COVID world, and indeed before we had Teams at work, if you wanted to get some information from someone, you would call them typically. Nowadays, it's much more typical for somebody to send me a Teams message. And even, people don't call out of the blue like they used to. It used to be I would get, every day multiple phone calls from people who needed something from me. Whereas nowadays I'm much more likely to get a Teams message either with a question or, have you got 5 minutes? And I can therefore prepare myself for the conversation. It's very rare that somebody calls me cold. So technology has made my work life a lot easier. And I think also there is just a growing understanding in business of the role that introverts play in successful businesses. So, the book Quiet by Susan Cain, which is fantastic, I think, has played a big part in that. But just, generally there is a much better understanding nowadays of diversity, both in terms of, ethnicity and sexuality and things like that, but also, the way people's brains work. And that has, I think good businesses nowadays tend to be all embracing and recognise the fact that having really diverse teams in every sense of the word is really important to being successful. And I suspect that if I were 20 or 30 years older, I wouldn't have got as far in the company that I work in as I have. Not that I've got that far, but I've got to a level I'm quite comfortable with, and I suspect in previous eras I wouldn't have got so far because there wasn't that understanding of introverts, and there wasn't the technology that make it easier for introverts to do business, if you like. So how does the channel relate to that then? So it does seem strange then that given I don't like speaking, I have a channel, but for some reason I find it easy. And Sarah said this in her video, when she's making videos, she's just talking to her phone. And not talking on the phone, but talking to her phone. So I have my phone on a tripod in front of me with a microphone, and I'm just talking. And in a way, this is me just externalising my internal thoughts. So, as an introvert, I'm someone who is very introspective, and I overthink things and think about things a lot. And really, what you're getting, for better or worse, when you watch my channel, is my inner thoughts, spilling out. But it seems to work. And I think there's one thing about making videos in the way that I make them that makes me feel safe as an introvert and able to talk and able to express myself. And that is editing. So I don't edit my videos that much. I do edit them to remove bits where, I fluff the words or something like that, and often where I've just dried up. Quite often I just dry up in my videos, and what I tend to do that is kind of take a few steps back and just start talking again, and then when I edit, I just edit out the bit where I had dried up and stitched the other two bits together. So where you see edits in my videos, that's typically the reason why I've just run out of steam and had to gather my thoughts again before I can continue. So I don't actually edit that much, but knowing that I've got the safety net of editing is really, really important to me. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm able to talk in the way that I do on videos, because I know that safety net is there. It's also one of the reasons why I have yet to do any sort of live video or collaborative video where I'm actually talking with another person, be that recorded or not. So lots of booktubers do live streams, do reading sprints and things like that, which are often great to watch. And lots of booktubers also do collaborative videos where 2 or more people get together to discuss a book. I've been approached a number of times in the past by other people asking me to collaborate on things. And people have often asked why I don't do live streams, but that's the reason, and it is something I'm trying to overcome. So I would like to overcome it because I do think it would be an interesting thing to do, and it's something I'll try and it just fails completely because I just find myself stuck like a rabbit in the headlights. We shall see if I ever do it. I am in conversation with a couple of other people at the moment about possibly doing like a kind of Zoom discussion of a book. So we'll see if that materialises or not. But yeah, editing for me is really important. But as I say, I think it's the fact I can edit rather than the fact I actually do much editing. So yeah, for me, the channel has become... it's become really important in my life in terms of giving me this outlet and allowing me to connect with so many other book lovers out there through my videos and through watching other people's videos and discussing things in the comments. And, you know, I've ended up having loads of offline conversations over email and things like that with other people, including on Voxer. So if you don't know Voxer, Voxer is an app where you can either type and message normally, or you can record messages. And send them as voice messages. And that's how a lot of people use it. And for some reason, Voxer seems to be really popular with booktubers. I'd never heard of it before, but lots of people on booktube use it. Anyone who's ever communicated with me on Voxer will know that, unlike other people, I very, very rarely use the option to speak. I almost always type, even if I'm replying to a voice message that someone sent me. I usually type my reply, which I think some people find a bit weird, but that's why. It's because I really struggle with speaking in the vast majority of situations, but not in videos. And one of the things I think that making videos and having the channel has helped me with is speaking. So I'm much more used to speaking now, which sounds like a very strange thing to say, doesn't it? But I'm more used to kind of structuring my thoughts in a spoken way, oral communication rather than written communication. And I think that has helped me at work. So at work, clearly I attend lots of meetings. I spend most of my life in meetings, and I have to talk in those, and that's okay. But I do also have to present sometimes, which is more of a challenge for me, and used to just terrify me. But now I'm over the years, I've got more used to it and more comfortable with it. And I think knowing your audience is really important with that as well. And actually, that's the other thing, is I know that when I'm talking to you, I have a safe audience. I'm amongst friends. Now, occasionally I do get some very weird and offensive comments on my videos, especially ones that the algorithm picks up and that do better than normal. So they go outside my normal sphere, if you like. But generally speaking, I know I'm talking to friends, and that makes me more comfortable. But I think doing the channel and talking in this way and structuring my thoughts in this way has really helped me at work as well. And I think I've become a more confident presenter at work than I used to be, which is great. So, it's an unexpected benefit of doing the channel. In terms of, so you may ask yourself the question then, if you don't like speaking and you didn't know that making videos was going to be comfortable for you, which I didn't, why did you start the channel in the first place? And this is something I have said on the channel before, but certainly given that the channel has grown quite a lot recently, many of you will probably not have heard me say this. So I started the channel as a bet. So my son bet me that he could get to 100 subscribers more quickly than I could. And I thought it would be a fun thing, a fun father-son kind of thing to do. So that's why I started the channel, to have a bit of fun. And I've ended up, to my great surprise, really, really enjoying it. I didn't expect to win that bet. I didn't expect the channel to be a success at all. But I found it a really useful and interesting outlet, to the extent that this morning I wasn't in the mood to make videos. It's the weekend. I knew I needed to make some videos, so I had some content for the week ahead, especially as I'm in London on Monday for work, and I just wasn't feeling it. But I thought, I've got to do it. So I've come up here and I've just started filming, and 15 minutes have gone by, and I've actually really enjoyed it. And I feel my mood has lifted. I feel that weight of the worry about having to film has gone, and I've really enjoyed filming. And hopefully you're enjoying it too. So that was a bit waffly, but basically those are my thoughts on being an introvert and what it's like to be an introvert. And also, I guess, on how sometimes trying things that don't necessarily feel like a natural thing to do, like this, may actually benefit you. So if you are someone who's out there and you're an introvert, and I think, I don't know, I'm sure there is data on this somewhere, but it feels instinctive to me, and indeed Sarah said the same thing in her video. It feels instinctive to me that bookish people are more likely to be introverts, and introverts are more likely to be bookish. it just, certainly that matches my experience. And I've often felt that through books, I almost get to feel what it's like to be an extrovert. So by reading about people going to parties and having, dazzling conversations and things like that, I get to experience that in a way that I just couldn't in real life. So if you are someone who's out there who is thinking about maybe starting a channel, but you feel like the fact that you're an introvert will hold you back, then take heart from my experience, which is that it has not been a blocker or an issue for me at all. And my advice would be, make a video, make a channel, get it out there and just see how it feels. And I think you may well find that it feels easier than you expect it to. It certainly has for me. Okay, time for a random book from the shelf. So it is the 11th of December today, so we are 2 weeks from Christmas Day. So I thought I would show you a Christmas book. So this is a Christmas book from my favourite book series of all time, which if you've watched the channel for any length of time, you will know is the 87th Precinct series by Ed McBain. So this is an 87th Precinct Christmas picture book. So the 87th Precinct books are crime novels, basically. So this might seem a slightly strange addition to the series, but it's really rather lovely. So I think it was originally published in a magazine as a short story, and then later this picture book edition was published. So it is a short story about Christmas Eve in the 87th Precinct house, basically, and what's going on, and various criminals coming in, and conversations going on between the different characters and things like that. But it's rather nicely illustrated as well. This copy, so it's out of print now. This copy I got off eBay, and came from, I think, a library in the US originally. So it does have various childish scribbles and things like that in it. But yeah, it's a really lovely story and a really charming addition to the series, and I like it very much, and we'll reread it this Christmas, I think. So I hope you enjoyed that. Do let me know your thoughts in the comments, whether you're an introvert or not. If you've got a channel and you're an introvert, let me know how it's been for you. And if you haven't got a channel but you're thinking about starting one, then any time feel free to reach out for kind of tips and advice I can give you from my own experience. So yes, anyway, thank you very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.